Let's be honest. There's a reason some men leave a mark on a woman's heart that time can't erase. You've probably seen it before. Months, even years after a breakup, she still remembers him. Not because he was the richest, the most handsome, or the smoothest talker, but because he did something different. He moved in a way that touched her mind, her emotions, and her soul. That's what we're talking about today. The kind of man a woman never forgets, and the 7 things he does that make her remember him long after he's gone. Welcome to the channel, fellas. If you've ever wondered why some men stay unforgettable while others fade like a text message left unread, you're in the right place. Today isn't about tricks or manipulation. It's about understanding the kind of energy that makes a lasting impact on a woman's life. We're going deep into how men can carry themselves in ways that leave a permanent emotional fingerprint. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Women might forget what you said, they might forget what you bought them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's the difference between the man she remembers and the one she barely recalls. And the irony? These 7 things aren't about chasing her. They're about becoming the kind of man who doesn't have to. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why some men linger in a woman's mind forever and how you can become one of them. But before we start, listen carefully. What you see here in my channel is just a preview, not the full picture. If you really want to master the dating game and learn how modern relationships actually work, don't waste time. Rush right now to https://www.stoicapproachtolife.com agvvls or go to my description and click the link below and unlock the real strategies, the real teachings, the real results. Don't just watch, level up today. So let's get started. 1. He leads with purpose. A woman never forgets a man who knows exactly where he's going. Not because he boasts about it or forces his vision on everyone, but because his life moves with direction. He walks like he knows something others don't. He doesn't wait for the world to tell him what to do. He already has a sense of purpose guiding his steps. That kind of energy is rare, and it's magnetic. When a man leads with purpose, he doesn't have to beg for attention. It naturally finds him. See, purpose isn't about being the loudest or the richest. It's about having clarity. It's about waking up each day with something that fuels you, something that shapes your decisions. A man who leads with purpose carries himself differently. His words have weight, his silence has meaning, and his actions reflect intention. He doesn't float through life. He builds it. That's the type of presence that sticks in a woman's memory, even when the relationship ends. When a woman encounters such a man, she feels something she can't quite explain. She feels grounded around him because his focus brings structure to her emotions. His purpose becomes a kind of anchor, not because she depends on him, but because he inspires stability. That's powerful. That's unforgettable. Most men chase validation. A purposeful man chases growth. And that difference changes everything. Leading with purpose doesn't mean controlling a woman or trying to dominate her. It means leading yourself first, knowing your values, standing by your word, and staying consistent even when life tests you. It's about having a direction so strong that anyone walking beside you feels safe and inspired, not controlled. Women remember the man who moves like that. They remember the man who didn't need them to complete his story, but invited them to walk beside him in it. The truth is, when a man leads with purpose, everything else about him becomes more attractive. His discipline, his peace, his confidence. Purpose gives his presence meaning. It's the silent force behind his decisions, his energy, and his calmness in chaos. When a woman sees that, she knows she's not just dealing with a man. She's dealing with a leader. Not a boss, not a controller, but a man who knows himself and where he's going. And that's a kind of man no woman ever forgets, because his purpose leaves an imprint deeper than words or gestures. It leaves a memory of strength, direction, and meaning. 2. He stays calm under pressure. There's something undeniably attractive about a man who doesn't flinch when life throws chaos his way. You see, most people lose themselves when things get tough. Tempers rise, voices get loud, and fear takes over. But a man who stays calm under pressure? That's a man who stands out. That's the man a woman never forgets, because his peace becomes her peace. He doesn't react. He responds. He doesn't let the storm control him. He controls how he sails through it. When a woman sees a man handle challenges with composure, she instantly feels a mix of admiration and security. It's not about being emotionless or pretending not to care. It's about having emotional control, knowing that panic solves nothing and clarity solves everything. In a world where people are quick to explode, a calm man is a breath of fresh air. He becomes the grounding force in any situation. His silence speaks louder than arguments, and his steady energy has a way of making everyone around him relax. Think about it. Pressure reveals who you really are. When everything's going well, anyone can act confident. But when things fall apart, only a man with inner strength can stay centered. That's what separates him from the rest. Women notice that. They remember how he handled the argument without shouting, how he faced rejection without bitterness, how he solved problems without blaming anyone. That kind of man earns respect effortlessly. Being calm under pressure doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending everything's fine. It means processing your feelings without letting them control your judgment. It means choosing to think before you react. It's emotional maturity at its highest level, and that's something women rarely forget. Because while others lose their cool, he keeps his focus, and that's the mark of a true man. When a man masters this, he becomes unforgettable, not because of what he says, but because of how he carries himself when things get ugly. His calmness becomes his signature. People trust him, women respect him, and even his silence carries authority. In moments of tension, his presence alone changes the atmosphere. And here's the secret. His calm isn't just strength, it's confidence. It's the confidence that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, he can handle it. And that's the kind of man who lives rent-free in a woman's memory long after he's gone. Because peace in a world full of noise is the loudest thing a man can possess. 3. He makes her feel safe. One of the biggest mistakes men make today is thinking that making a woman feel safe means protecting her from physical harm or showering her with money and gifts. While those gestures have their place, true safety goes far deeper. It's emotional, mental, and spiritual. A woman never forgets the man who makes her feel safe enough to be herself, to speak her mind without fear, and to trust that her heart is secure with him. But here's where many men get it wrong. They focus on control instead of connection. The wrong way to make a woman feel safe is to dominate her decisions, monitor her moves, or become possessive in the name of love. That's not safety. That's insecurity dressed up as protection. When a man behaves this way, what he's really doing is trying to manage his own fears by limiting her freedom. And while he might think it shows care, it actually builds distance. No woman can feel safe around someone who uses authority to hide vulnerability. What she feels instead is pressure, not peace. The right way, however, is much simpler and far more powerful. A man who truly makes a woman feel safe doesn't control her. He reassures her. He creates consistency through his words and actions. He doesn't say one thing and do another. His loyalty isn't proven by how many rules he sets, but by how dependable he is when life gets difficult. He listens when she speaks, not to respond, but to understand. He doesn't make her feel small for expressing emotions. Instead, He gives her space to breathe, knowing that her comfort doesn't threaten his strength, it enhances it. To correct the wrongs, a man must start by addressing his own fears. Insecurity is often the root of possessiveness. When a man learns to trust himself, he becomes easier to trust. Building emotional safety starts with honesty. Admit when you're wrong. Communicate when you're upset. Don't let silence turn into resentment. Emotional maturity is the foundation of a safe relationship. It's about being present, not perfect. Women remember the man who didn't make them earn love by walking on eggshells. They remember the one who made them feel calm even when life was chaotic. They never forget the man who protected their peace instead of disturbing it. When a man gets this right, he becomes more than just a partner. He becomes a sanctuary. And that's something that stays in her heart forever. The correction isn't in being tougher or louder. It's in being more consistent, more understanding, and more grounded. That's the kind of man who leaves a lasting mark, the one who gives her something rarer than romance. Security in its truest form. 4. He challenges her mind. A woman never forgets the man who challenges her to think bigger, dream deeper, and grow beyond her comfort zone. Most men try to impress women by showing off what they have, but the unforgettable man inspires her to see what she can become. He doesn't just feed her emotions, he feeds her mind. He's not intimidated by her intelligence or ambition. He celebrates it and adds fuel to it. That's the man who stands out. That's the man who becomes impossible to forget. When you challenge a woman's mind, you're not arguing with her or trying to prove you're smarter. You're awakening something powerful within her, the desire to evolve. You become the man who pushes her to aim higher, to believe in herself, and to see possibilities she once doubted. And here's the thing. It's not about telling her what to do. It's about showing her what's possible through your own discipline, drive, and mindset. Motivation isn't something you give. It's something you live. This kind of challenge is rare because most men either play it safe or play it small. They avoid deep conversations. They agree with everything she says just to stay in her good graces. And they think that's the way to win her heart. But that's the fastest way to lose her respect. Women remember men who stimulate their minds, not those who simply flatter them. She might smile at your compliments, but she'll think about your words when they push her to grow. A motivational man doesn't settle for surface-level connection. He talks about goals, purpose, growth, and the future. He listens deeply and encourages her to chase her passions even when the world tells her she can't. He reminds her of her strength when she forgets it. That's what leadership looks like in love. Not control, but empowerment. He doesn't compete with her. He completes the vision. And when she sees that kind of energy, she feels inspired to rise with him, not just follow him. You have to understand, when you challenge a woman's mind, you give her something the world rarely offers, the space to grow and still be loved. You become her mirror, reflecting her potential back at her. You make her feel seen, not just for her beauty, but for her brilliance. That's why she'll never forget you. Because while others only reached for her body, you reached for her soul. You gave her something that outlives attraction, growth. So be the man who makes her think. Ask deep questions, share ideas, encourage ambition. Be the kind of man who pushes her to become her best self. Because when you help her rise, she'll always remember who lifted her. That's the power of a man who challenges her mind. He leaves a legacy, not just a memory. 5. He values himself. If there's one thing that separates forgettable men from unforgettable ones, it's self-respect. A woman never forgets a man who values himself, because that value radiates through everything he says and does. He doesn't beg for attention, he doesn't chase validation, and he doesn't allow anyone, no matter how beautiful or charming, to treat him less than he deserves. That kind of confidence is persuasive because it's rare. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. And when a man knows his worth, everyone around him feels it. Here's the truth. Too many men lose themselves trying to please others. They bend their boundaries, silence their needs, and become yes men in hopes of being loved. But that's not love. It's self-neglect. A woman might appreciate the attention at first, but deep down, she can sense when a man is desperate for approval. And nothing kills attraction faster than desperation. The men women remember are the ones who knew how to walk away when their peace was at stake. They knew how to say no without guilt and yes with confidence. Valuing yourself means refusing to settle for relationships, jobs, or situations that don't honor your worth. It's about building your life around standards, not emotions. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. When a man carries himself with self-respect, he naturally commands respect from others. A woman feels that energy instantly. She sees that his attention is a privilege, not a favor. And that's what makes her admire him even more. But valuing yourself isn't just about setting boundaries. It's about growth. It's knowing that your time, energy, and peace are investments, not giveaways. A man who values himself spends time improving his mindset, his body, and his goals. He doesn't compete with others. He competes with his yesterday. That quiet confidence speaks louder than words. When he enters a room, people sense his presence because he's not seeking validation. He's secure in who he is. Women remember men like that because they're grounded. They don't get swayed by flattery or manipulated by guilt. Their respect for themselves makes them selective, not distant. They can give love fully without losing identity. And that's powerful. It's persuasive because it draws people in naturally. You don't need to convince anyone of your value when you live it. So if you want to be the man she never forgets, stop trying to prove yourself and start improving yourself. Speak with intention, stand by your values, and move like a man who knows he brings something valuable to the table. Because once you see your own worth, you'll stop giving discounts. And that's when she'll remember you. Not for what you gave her, but for the standard you represented. That's the kind of man who doesn't chase love. He attracts it. 6. He listens with intent. Listening is one of the simplest things to do, yet one of the hardest to master. Most men hear, but very few truly listen. And that's why a woman never forgets a man who listens with intent, because he doesn't just wait for his turn to talk, he pays attention to understand. He listens not to fix, not to debate, but to connect. That skill alone can transform how men communicate, not just in relationships, but in life. Let's get something straight. Listening isn't passive. It's one of the most powerful tools a man can have. When you listen with intent, you show emotional intelligence. You show control. You show presence. You're telling her, without words, what you feel matters. And in a world where people are more interested in talking than understanding, that level of focus is unforgettable. Women notice it instantly because it makes them feel valued and respected, not judged or dismissed. Now, here's where most men go wrong. They confuse listening with waiting. They nod, say uh-huh, and then jump straight into giving solutions. But most of the time, a woman isn't looking for you to solve her problems. She just wants to know you care enough to hear them. The wrong move is interrupting her or turning the conversation back to yourself. The right move is to pause, process, and respond thoughtfully. Ask questions that show you were paying attention. Repeat what she said to show you understood. That's how you build trust. Educating yourself on active listening changes everything. It's not about pretending to care. It's about actually caring. Train yourself to listen without distractions. Put the phone down. Make eye contact. Notice the tone, the body language, the words between the lines. That's where the real communication happens. When you can understand a woman not just by what she says, but by what she means, you gain insight that most men never will. Listening with intent doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It teaches patience, empathy, and awareness, all qualities that women associate with maturity. And beyond relationships, this skill helps in business, friendships, and leadership. People follow men who make them feel heard. That's how influence is built, through understanding, not authority. The man who listens with intent becomes unforgettable because he does what so many overlook. He makes people feel seen. He doesn't just hear problems, he hears emotions. He doesn't just respond, he connects. That depth of understanding creates a bond that outlasts physical attraction. A woman will forget the man who always tried to impress her, but she'll never forget the man who truly understood her. So if you want to be that man, start by mastering the art of listening, not just with your ears, but with your attention, your patience, and your heart. 7. He walks away with dignity. There's something undeniably powerful about a man who knows when to walk away, and does it with dignity. Not out of pride, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. That's the kind of man a woman never forgets. Because while most people beg to be understood or chase closure that never comes, the man who walks away gracefully sends a message louder than words. I know my worth, and I won't beg for love that doesn't see it. When a man walks away with dignity, it doesn't mean he's heartless. It means he values his peace more than his ego. It means he understands that not every situation deserves a reaction, and not every goodbye needs to be loud. Sometimes silence says everything. A woman may not admit it, but she remembers the man who didn't curse her out, didn't try to prove a point, and didn't play games. He simply wished her well, turned around, and kept moving forward. That kind of composure stays in her mind long after the drama fades. Walking away with dignity also means knowing when to stop giving your energy to something that no longer feeds your soul. Too many men lose themselves trying to convince someone to stay. They think persistence equals loyalty, but there's a thin line between loyalty and self-destruction. Real strength is in letting go, not holding on. The man who knows this earns silent respect from everyone, even from the one who took him for granted. Here's what makes it truly engaging. When you walk away with dignity, you show growth, you show evolution. You prove that you're not driven by revenge, but by renewal. You don't need to broadcast your worth. You live it. That's what keeps you unforgettable. Because one day, when emotions settle and reality sets in, she'll look back and remember how calmly you handled everything. She'll remember your silence, your maturity, your control. And she'll realize that losing you wasn't just losing a man, it was losing peace. Dignity doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you channel it. You use it to build, to heal, to rise. You don't chase people, you chase purpose. You don't prove your value, you embody it. And that quiet confidence creates an aura that lingers. The truth is, nothing haunts a woman more than the man who didn't argue, didn't beg, and didn't break. He simply left, knowing his value didn't decrease just because someone couldn't see it. So when the time comes, walk away with your head high, your emotions in check, and your peace intact. That's how unforgettable men move. They leave behind no bitterness, no chaos, only a memory of strength, grace, and composure. Because sometimes the most powerful statement a man can make is the one he makes in silence. At the end of the day, what makes a man unforgettable isn't perfection. It's presence. It's the way he leads with purpose, stays calm under pressure, values himself, listens deeply, and knows when to walk away. These traits don't just attract women, they inspire respect. Because the truth is, a woman never forgets a man who makes her feel safe, seen, and challenged to grow. So be that man, the one who doesn't chase validation but lives with intention. The one whose actions echo long after he's gone. That's how you become truly unforgettable. And before you go, remember, what you've just watched is only a small piece of the puzzle. If you're serious about mastering the dating game and building real confidence in modern relationships, don't wait. Visit http://www.stoicapproachtolife.com AGVELS right now and get access to the full teaching. That's where the real transformation begins.